Kingston on your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM and also online at mykcr.org.
Central Hudson reminds you, when you're doing yard work, safety matters. If you use a ladder, be aware of overhead electric lines, including the service wire that runs to your house. Even wooden ladders can conduct electricity with dangerous results. And be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a swimming pool, and you're working with skimmers, brooms, or other long-handled tools. Central Hudson wishes you a safe summer.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Jackie Levezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
This programming is brought to you by the Friends of Kevin Cahill. As a strong advocate of local broadcasting, Assemblymember Cahill urges you to support Kingston Community Radio with your time and donations. Your contributions keep KCR vital and on the air at FM 92.5, AM 920, and on the web at mykcr.org. Please join Assemblymember Cahill and send your gifts of $10, $25, or more to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. Together, let's keep KCR alive.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good morning, listeners. 331-9255 is our call-in number. You're listening to the Wednesday morning Kingston Community Radio Show, broadcasting live from 16 Lucas Avenue, right here in Kingston, New York. It is a call-in talk radio show. We'd love to hear from you. 331-9255 is our call-in number. Quite a milestone yesterday. New York State hit 70%.
Yes, I see that on the front page of the Freeman.
Of adults getting at least one shot. We got
That's for adults, right? Because obviously the kids haven't all got theirs yet, right?
Correct. And I believe with this here, it is 18 and older. So that doesn't even include the 12 to 18s that have been vaccinated, because they're referring to it as adults.
Yeah, a friend of mine has a 12-year-old, and he got his shot. So.
I know quite a few parents that have had their their children vaccinated.
Yeah, I mean, just to get back to normal, it makes sense, you know.
Well, it's cut and dry. I mean,
right. Some people aren't.
It's not even a cloudy picture or a vague picture. The vaccinations are definitely helping.
And they're definitely working.
Definitely working. And the small percentage that have contracted COVID, the symptoms are much, much less severe. In some cases, they didn't even realize they had it. It prevents hospitalizations, and more than likely, it prevents death.
Yes.
And, even though we hit that milestone yesterday, on the flip side of the coin, the other side of the street, however you want to refer to it as, a grim milestone of over 600,000 people in the United States have lost their lives to COVID as of yesterday.
So yes, we are on the right track, but yeah, it's been bad. Now I feel some of that 600,000 number is inflated. We lost 3 people in the Kingston Lions Club this year. One of them was a spouse. 2 of them were members. 2 of them had been in nursing homes long before COVID even started. But on their death certificates, it said COVID-19 was the cause of death. None of them died from COVID either. So, but be that as it may, not to tarnish their names or family, history or whatever, we did lose a lot of people from it. But now that we're on the right track, you can tell people outside when you go to restaurants now they're packed.
Yeah.
Inside and outside. So it's good. And if anybody watches sports, you could see all the people in the stands, like at the Nets game last night.
They
were mobbed there last night. There's a lot of people there.
That was quite a game. You and I were talking off air. The show that Duran put on last night was just unbelievable.
Yeah. And for them to be down by 18, you said, I mean, that was
most of the game they were down by 18 to 20 points. From what I was told, I saw the best part of it. I saw the last five minutes of the game, and he played the entire game. He didn't even come out for 1 minute.
Yeah. Well, they said Kyrie's going to be out for the rest of the series at best. Harden could be back for the next game. His injury is getting better, but Kyrie's probably going to be out for a little while. I mean, he hurt his ankle, right? So Kyrie did.
I think so. Yeah.
But I mean, it's the basketball series are good now. Besides the Suns, who swept Utah. I mean, the Clippers in the other game there. The Clippers and the Clippers are playing the Jazz, right? Who did the Suns just sweep?
Besides the Nets, because they're the Brooklyn Nets, they're a New York team. I am not following.
You don't know who the rest of them are. I pretty much. I'm a Knicks fan, so I'm not really too big of a Knicks fan. And they didn't. I mean, at least they made the playoffs this year, which is good compared to how it's been for the last 20 years.
People tell me.
But I'm rooting for Brooklyn, though.
People tell me I can't do this and I'm crazy. You can't be both. I'm a New York fan.
Right? No, I
am
you.
a New York
fan.
But
you don't like the Jets, though, right? I mean, I'm a Giant fan.
I do.
I'll watch them, but I'm not. If they're playing the Giants, I'm not rooting for the Jets.
No.
And you're a Giant season ticket holder, so I mean, in the NFL, yes, you do have to stick with one team, but I mean, I watch the Mets sometimes. I'm not really a big Mets fan. I wouldn't go to a Mets game. It's too far of a ride. Yankee Stadium's closer. I've liked the Yankees since a kid. I'm a Yankee fan, but every once in a while I'll watch the Mets. Let's face it, the Mets are playing better than the Yankees are right now anyway. So
I know one individual. In fact, I'm not going to mention him by name. He used to be a host on this show for quite a number of years, but diehard Met fan, hated the Yankees, and was
he on your show?
Huh?
Was he on your show?
This was actually before I even became a regular host.
Oh, okay.
So we're going back. We're going back a little bit. So anyway, make long story short, diehard Met fan, and he sometimes listens. I wonder if he's listening this morning.
It wasn't Greg Dreiss, is it?
I'm not going to mention names on the thing.
I'm just trying to think of the Met fans that work here. Chris Burns was one of them. Yeah. He was a diehard Met fan, but you guys were on different days.
So anyway,
we won't talk about his name.
The Yankees were right on the edge of making the playoffs, not making the playoffs. And he was rooting so hard against them. The Mets they got eliminated probably before Labor Day. And I had mentioned to him, because he was also big into with the economy, economic development, et cetera, in the position that he held. And back when the Buffalo Bills had their run of consecutive years,
the four Super Bowls, right,
in the playoffs, the Super Bowl,
and then the 4 losses, right? Yeah.
The first year that they did not make the playoffs, the monetary economic impact to Western New York and New York State, the number just blew me away.
Wow.
What that equated to.
Yeah.
So now you take Buffalo and compare it to the metropolitan area, that number has got to even be much, much bigger. Because now you're talking the tri-state area. But that year there, the amount of tourism dollars, economic dollars that they mentioned as a result of the Bills not making the playoffs after 7-8 consecutive years, it was
huge.
Blew my mind. Fred Costello, good morning. I got babbling away here. Got to introduce you.
I didn't want to stop your momentum.
Supervisor Town of Sorgetes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lawrence. Good morning, Fred. How we doing?
We've been talking about the Brooklyn Nets that comeback last night. Did you get to watch
exciting,
the end of it?
I saw highlights this morning when I was watching the news.
I saw the best part of it, the last 5 minutes.
Sadly, with basketball, that's where all the excitement lies. Yeah. But that's been an exciting series.
It was a Stallions game last evening, and the Stallions won 7-4. They are 8-3 in first place, and went over to the Stable Club, and I knew they had the game on. And Kevin Durant did not miss a minute. He played the entire game. How many times you hear a player going?
Not often.
49 points, double digits with rebounds and assists. and didn't miss a minute of the game.
He's kind of been that level of leadership everywhere he's played, though.
And I think from what they told me, at the end of the third quarter, they were down 19. And then and came back in the fourth quarter. I guess the majority of the game, they were behind. And came back and, what was this, 114, 109, something like that? They won by 4 or 5 points.
That's a high-scoring game,
Yeah.
especially by today's standards.
He hit a big three-pointer with only a second on the clock in the last minute. He was way out past the ring, the three-point ring, three-point line. So it's good. We got the Brooklyn Nets and the Islanders. They're still in it. So some good stuff for local teams. And then we were also talking, front page of the Freeman this morning, back to life as we know it, as Cuomo summed it up in his, he was doing, I guess, his little victory lap or whatever the heck he was doing yesterday. And but still, good. Over 70% of adults have at least one shot, and we just got to keep that number growing as we go through the summer, and hopefully that number gets up to 75% or in the upper 70s by the time we hit Labor Day and kids are returning to school. But on the flip side of it, with that good news yesterday, some grim news: over 600,000 people in the United States lost their lives to COVID. So even though we're, I guess you could call it back to life as we know it, I don't know if I'd go quite.
That's quite optimistic at this point.
Yeah.
We're getting there, but we're, there's still.
For the vaccinated people with all the restrictions that are being lifted, and I guess they lifted I didn't see mass transit with masks. Certain healthcare facilities, they're still saying K through 12.
I think those are CDC requirements, though. So the CDC restrictions are still in place. Anything that the state added as supplemental to those restrictions were lifted yesterday.
Okay. Oh, so the state kept the mask mandate for mass transit.
No, I think the federal government did. I think the CDC did that.
Oh.
I know for Kingston's graduation a week from Friday, Cameron Rylance, the Tuesday host, his son is graduating high school this year. They split it up A through L and then M through Z. They can't have
all distancing.
There are people and only 2 guests per kid. So they split up the graduation.
Sororities kind of did the same. 2 guests, 2 parents, whatever.
You get 2 tickets, but he came home last night with his gown and his hat because I had dinner at Cam's house last night. He's all excited. Today is his last day of school. No Regents exams this year or anything like that. At least Kingston's not doing that. I would imagine that's a New York State thing or whatever.
Yeah,
pretty incredible.
He's graduating and moving on, and today's his last day of school. So,
congratulations to him. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it is. I remember the day I graduated high school. I was happy.
Yeah. My daughter graduated last year, and I was pretty excited for her and her friends. And,
so Cam and his mother, or Cam and his father, are going to Ben's graduation, and then there's going to be a lot of people spread out around Deed Stadium because they're not allowed through the gate, but, their loved ones are graduating, so... so there's a lot of people that are going to be in Forsyth Park, probably with like a tailgate type situation, I mean, when I graduated, I think 9 people came or something, the whole place was, and I graduated with 585 kids, so his class is about 400.
That's a large class.
Kingston High School holds almost 4,000 kids. I mean, it's a pretty big school. Mine was 585. When I went to my 20-year high school reunion 10 years ago, I don't like to talk about that, there was 189 people there. For a 20-year reunion, and we had it up at Skytop, when they first were still the brewery, and there was a lot of people there. Some of them I didn't even recognize. I'm like, I went to school with you? I had no idea. Sometimes when you go to school with that many people,
you're not going to know everyone.
You know what? That's true.
Yeah, I knew a lot of them by first names, but as Ben Rylance said last night, he was like, I didn't know I don't know their last names. There's not. How many kids did you hang out with in high school? 20 or 30?
Yeah.
You don't hang out with the whole class. Some people
how big is the class this year?
His class is 402. That's what was graduating.
And you were 585?
402. So, I mean, Kingston High School is pretty big, but I would imagine Saugerties has got a couple thousand kids in it, right?
Yeah, but their graduating class is 170 or
Yeah, so
thereabouts.
that's still a pretty big graduating class.
It's substantial.
I remember living in Florida, and I'd tell people how many kids I graduated in high school. They're like, "You're right, dude." They're like, "There was only 300 people in our whole K through 12." And they were, people in South Florida came from different places, but, to imagine have 180 kids in your whole, for 12 grades, I mean.
You're going to know everyone's name.
Yeah, you're going to know everyone,
yeah.
even the little people.
Yep, you're going to know everyone. Pretty interesting, though. But so you just described it, and there has been a trend of smaller class sizes.
Yes.
Families are different. When we grew up, it was not uncommon for families of 3, 4, or 5. And nowadays,
believe it or not, and I couldn't believe this fact, a lot of people are, more than there was back when we went to school, more people are homeschooled or sent to boarding schools, or some people don't believe in the New York City, New York
the public school system,
which, as me and you and I could, you get a fine education as long as you pay attention and do what you're told. I mean, the teachers are there for a reason. So,
I believe in it. I think they overwhelmingly, if you give it a fair opportunity, you can get a very good education.
Yeah.
I know the family; they're bright people, but there was a couple kids that went to Harvard from Saugerties High School, and you're not going to do much better than that. Yep. So the opportunities certainly exist, and
the opportunities are certainly there. Obviously, there has to be that initiative on the students' part to want to, make the commitment, and sometimes that commitment can be 6 years. With a college education,
yes.
Depending on how far you go and what you go. I mean, let's face it, to get accepted into the bar and pass the test to get a license to be a lawyer, that's, I believe, is
an achievement. Yeah, it's an achievement, and even for educators now.
I know several individuals, including a couple, I never ever would have thought. Never would have thought. Wow.
Even for educators, I think it's 6 years though, because you have to do your
yeah, it is.
You have to do your master's now, so it's it's a commitment, which is good and interesting. I think something else that's interesting is New Paltz is academically rated so high as a college, and when I was a young person, that wasn't necessarily the case, but they've really developed a strong academic reputation throughout the Northeast, really, at this point. Pretty impressive, so exciting.
It is exciting. It is very exciting.
Yeah. So did you do any of these events?
No, we got you, if you want to start off with that one. And listeners, while we're talking about that, we were just talking a few minutes ago about, the restrictions that were lifted in New York State as a result of getting to 70% of adults with at least one vaccination. Send us your events in. The civic organization, not-for-profits. It's a good way to publicize, promote, market at no charge, at no cost whatsoever.
So this is something we haven't seen in a while. There's a Father's Day all-you-can-eat breakfast. It includes hot and cold drinks from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is being sponsored by the Veteran of Foreign Wars of the United States, the Saugerties Group, and it will be on June 20th. And takeout is available. It's $10 for adults and $6 for children under 12. And this will take place at the American Legion Hall on 30 John Street in Saugerties, New York. So this is a first in a while that we've seen. And then the other big event this weekend is the unveiling for the Firemen's Memorial.
Yes.
And,
that takes place on Saturday. That starts at 9 a.m., right at the Market Street entrance to the Cantine Veterans Sports Complex. Quite impressive. It's covered up. People cannot see it. Obviously, I got a sneak preview before it was covered, and very, very impressive. And one thing I want to mention about the Father's Day breakfast, originally this was scheduled for the Greco Center, Greco Senior Citizens Center, and I know there were some flyers out stating that. So this is a location change to the American Legion Hall at 30 John Street. That had to be done to accommodate early voting, which for our listeners is currently taking place every day up until Sunday. For those residents in Sorgeties, we do have early voting, as I just mentioned, taking place at the Greco Senior Citizens Center on the south end of the complex, Market and Robinson Street, so you can take advantage of early primary voting.
So that early voting will influence the location of our town board meeting this evening. We will be at the senior center, but in the small room. So if you're planning on attending, you're welcome to do so. But we are in the small room, not the large room. We will not be going into the big room where the voting machines are, and it's set up to facilitate early voting, and obviously have to protect that.
So hopefully none of these public hearings that you got, and you got quite an aggressive
schedule
agenda. Okay, hopefully you're not anticipating too many people where maybe somebody has to look at you through binoculars from the outside window.
We will give everybody the opportunity to be heard if they come, and you can also attend the meeting.
I'm being facetious, as you know.
I know, but it's going to be a valid point. Obviously, there's occasions even in the big room where that room's not large enough. So, you're certainly welcome to come. We are sensitive to the idea that space could be a problem tonight. And if you are hoping to address the board, we'll make sure there's a way that we can accommodate your wish. And we do have a number of public hearings, so it should be definitely an eventful evening. I think we have 19 motions. We have a lot going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I guess so.
But it's good. We're last year was a challenge, kind of defensive challenge, trying to make sure that our residents and our employees were safe and offer services to those who might need them, and that's that consumed the bulk of our time, but we did not do the work that the board hoped to do. So since really early this year, we've started, and we have a number of local laws we've been working on. The installation of the monument. We have there's a lot happening, which is great, and that's what it's for. And I tell you, you and I sat and watched the end of the boys' game about a week ago, and it just felt right to be at Cantine Field with baseball happening and softball leagues in full swing and all the activities there and the noise of it all. It felt really good to be back like that.
It did. And, it's the same way with the Stallions games. He's been drawing some
big
large crowds. Yeah. Good crowd last night, even after that freakish rainstorm that seemed like it was basically over the village of Sorgeties, the complex. I don't know how far north it went, but I know it didn't rain in Glasgow. And we got 3/4 of an inch of rain in just under an hour.
It was an odd day for weather all day, though.
Yeah.
Kim and I
never ever expected, but literally, and looking on the radar, the storm formed directly over us, over Sorgeties, and sat for about 40-45 minutes. And just
That's a lot of rain for a short time.
A lot of rain. Wow. So, I saw some flooded fields that I hadn't seen in a while.
A long time.
Yeah.
It was a pretty extraordinary day, though. We were standing in the bright sunshine, and it was pouring on us. I'm like, how can this happen?
So a couple other announcements, some really good stuff here. For the first time, this is their inaugural season. Sorgeties has a team in the New York State Box Lacrosse League. It's the Sorgeties Night Pandas, and they're playing their game. Actually, it's the Interstate Box Lacrosse League. They have 3 home games playing out of the Kiwanis Ice Arena. June 27th against Albany Hyenas. July 8th against Salt Lake Eels. And July 18th against the Utica Yeti. Some good high-level box lacrosse, indoor box lacrosse. Again, first time, and lacrosse, boy, has really
took off.
Taken off big time. And the other announcement that I've got here as I'm going through.
As we were talking about the Fallen Firefighters Memorial, that event is one of the highlights of the convention being held in Sorgeties starting tomorrow morning, the Hudson Valley Firefighters Convention.
Right.
So this is a somewhat hyphenated schedule of events to memorialize this year's convention. As they were planning this event, the COVID restrictions at that time were what dictated what we could and couldn't do. Mike Carachet, who headed this up with a great team of volunteer firefighters and auxiliary members, they did the best they could to plan events, and it's certainly going to be a filled schedule for the next few days beginning tomorrow morning. But we hope in 2 years to have this back, and we can really roll out the carpet for this event.
I believe we're online to host it in 2024.
Yeah,
They kind of made a special arrangement. Generally it's quite a number of years. I think the last time we had it was the late 70s.
I think you're right.
And talk about monsoons.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that was memorable.
Monsoons. So the other thing I want to mention here is, and certainly extend congratulations to Julie Wilson, young player on the Phillies girls hockey team, on signing a 4-year player commitment to King's College. The signing took place at the ice arena recently. So best of luck to Julie, and great job. We've had a couple that have done some signings, and full scholarship to King's College.
Congratulations, that's nice. Very nice. There's been a couple.
Yeah.
There's especially that girls softball team. They have a lot of talent.
They do. But it's also good to see hockey players coming out of the ice arena.
It really is.
And signing with some of these bigger colleges. It just, once again shows the commitment of many of our volunteers, our coaches, our instructors, et cetera.
Yeah, and when you talk to a few of those coaches, they kind of share the excitement about these young folks having this opportunity. They've worked with them for a very long time, and to see them develop the skill set that they have and go on and compete at that high level, there's a lot of satisfaction and a really good reflection on the leagues they're coming out of. And it's fun. It's really fun to root for them.
It is really. It is fun.
So we got a full schedule today, right?
We got a full schedule. I think we have a full schedule every day.
Every day?
But something, as you mentioned, it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
It's all
it
good
was
stuff.
exciting yesterday to see the not quite final, but the landscaping and some of the final improvements that our staff is doing.
Flowers
it looks sharp.
Flowers are going in today, and Tina is going. We have a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning to all.
Good morning.
I have an announcement I'd like to make.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, St. Mary of the Snow is going to have, it's not really a bazaar, it's a take-out dinner they're having. It's done by the Stone Pony, and it's going to be on the 24th and 25th of this month. And they're going to be having barbecue chicken, pulled pork, and ribs. And with each one of them, you get a coleslaw, a baked potato, and brownie. And with the ribs, you're going to get a roll of besides. It's $15 for the chicken and also for the pulled pork, and it's $18 for the ribs. And if anybody's interested, the number to call is 246-6381. There's Christine Montanelli. They're also going to sell their favorite and famous fried dough, and that's $3 for the fried dough. So, again, the number you're going to call is 246-6381, and it's going to be on the 24th and 25th at St. Mary of the Snow School. And it's a takeout, and it goes from 5 o'clock until 7 o'clock. They have different times so you can pick it up. So, I hope they're going to be successful because, a lot of things they were not able to hold because of the virus.
That's the first I'm hearing of that. So it's kind of like obviously the bazaar for the second year in a row got canceled, and that's good that they're doing it. So we'll make sure that we promote it next Wednesday on the radio show, and I may actually call Christine and have her send me over a flyer that we can have down here, so our host the rest of the week can also announce it.
Yes, right. Yeah,
Thank
and that's on 25 Cedar Street. That's the address, for it.
Perfect. Thank you for calling in about that. It's It's certainly a noteworthy event coming up, and people who are interested should call and make arrangements to have a reservation. I'm sure they can accommodate some walk-ups, but if you don't have a ticket in advance, it's a gamble as to whether or not you'll get a meal.
Yeah. See, because they have to know because like the Stone Pony is doing it, and they need to know the number of people, and then like the times they would like to pick it up. So it goes from like 5 o'clock until 7 o'clock in the evening.
Jeez, if I'd known that, I could have set my beer and soda tent up over there. They could have got it to go.
They could have got it. Yeah. Might not be too late.
Okay, Mrs. R., we're down to 1 minute, so thank you very much for your call. Thanks for that announcement, which I didn't know a thing about. And again, I'm going to call Christine on the drive home and see if she can't send me over a flyer.
Yeah, right.
All right, you have yourself an awesome day.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. And the next hour, we've got Jid Tinti, police chief from the city of Kingston. I'm sure he'll be dragging someone along. And, we've always said, just like we've said to Chief Sinagra, an hour just doesn't cut the mustard for him. Well, guess what? He's got the opportunity to do the entire right till 9 o'clock because, unfortunately, Senator Michelle Hinchy, due to scheduling obligations, is unable to join us this morning. So we'll get him on a roll, and, who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure we have no problem filling time.
No, as this half hour just flew by. We're at the bottom of the hour. We'll be back in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Swimming pools are great for family fun, and Central Hudson wants you to play it safe. Never operate an electric appliance next to or in the pool. Be sure pool motors and filters are grounded. Have them installed by a professional and serviced by a licensed professional electrician. Be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a pool, especially if using long-handled cleaning tools. And if a storm is nearby, get out of the water. Your safety matters.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, listeners who were with us the first half hour, and those just joining us, welcome. 331-9255 is our call-in number. In the studio here, we have Chief Jid Tinti from the city of Kingston and Elisa Tinti. I didn't want to botch the name, so I had to pronounce it. City Clerk, also from the city of Kingston, and Sorgady's town supervisor, Fred Costello.
Good morning.
Everybody.
Yeah, good morning and welcome.
Beautiful morning.
Yes, it is.
We've been on a pretty good stretch of weather.
Yeah, as we pulled in, she drove in behind me, and because she's not familiar with Kingston, and so we pulled in, and there was a beautiful deer, a doe, right here.
There's a bunch of
Outside
them in
the
parking
studio?
lot.
Right out here. Yeah, I
Yeah.
told her, as soon as I get out of the car, I'm going to pet it. I said, it's right there. She pulled
Or
in,
shoot
saw
it, one or the other.
No. Shoot it.
You don't eat deer? You never ate deer?
Oh, yeah, you're not going
I'm
to shoot
kidding.
it in the
We don't
parking
shoot-
lot of Kingston.
No
wrong
firing
season.
zones.
No
City
shots
limits.
fired in Kingston.
Yeah.
No shots fired
Right,
in
I got
Kingston.
you.
All right, please. Anyway, so
Wrong season.
we talked this morning.
Can you imagine that headline?
Oh,
Placing out there right there?
yeah. So I brought Elisa with me today. There's a couple of new things happening at City Hall, right? We're opening up, the governor's announcement.
Yeah, very
Kind of going back
excited.
to normal, kind of. So
Yes.
go ahead.
Well, with the new announcement, we will be having many discussions today and tomorrow, and so the mayor will make announcements on Friday as to what is going to happen, the changes in City Hall, what our new plan and procedure will be. Right now, we've been open 10 to 2 Monday through Friday, and to the public. We're there regular work hours, but limited hours for the public, and with somebody at the door taking temperature and signing in. So there will be some big changes happening. I don't know what they are, but we will find out on Friday. So it's pretty exciting. We have a lot of excitement going around about going back to normal.
We commented, Fred and I, in the first half hour, and it just goes to show, I mean, it's very, very clear. It's not even a cloudy or vague picture how important it is to get vaccinated and how well the vaccine has worked. On the flip side, Cuomo referred to it, and it's the headline on the Kingston Freeman, "Back to life as we know it," in quotes. I don't know if I'll go that far, because on the flip side of the coin, with that good news yesterday, there was also the grim news of we surpassed 600,000 deaths in the United States. And that number will more than likely continue to grow at a much, much lesser pace, I hope. I mean, it has been declining. This new Delta variant, they're claiming is much more contagious, can be much more devastating as far as the level of illness and possible death if you're not vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, you are protected, and I still, even with that news, there's still the reluctancy of quite a percentage of individuals that are reluctant to get the vaccine.
It's shocking how many people actually still think that it's not real.
Yeah, I know.
With
Yeah,
the
it's
numbers
just,
of deaths we've had. We're so fortunate. Our entire household, right down to my 13-year-old, have been fully vaccinated. Actually, tomorrow is for him, because he was the last one, of course, because of his age. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks.
Great.
So he'll be safe, finally.
Yes. And last night, my kids swim competitively their whole lives, and they swim for Hurley in the summer, and they had their first practice, and it was so exciting for me that they're back. Yeah, they're back in the water. Thank God. After not being able to do anything, sitting in their rooms for a year. So
Well, I don't know how you folks felt, but I know when I was able to get vaccinated, and I'm a life member active of Malden West Camp, and actually through State Fire Association, I was able to get the vaccine in February. Now, they only offer 2 locations, the Moderna in Albany and the Pfizer in Utica. And one night I just got wrapped up, I think it was New England Journal of Medicine, I read that quite a bit, and I just got hooked on the Pfizer vaccine. So I didn't mind driving to Utica. Actually, it was the first time I did an extended drive. It was nice. It was a nice clear day, chilly no, I guess you wouldn't say chilly for February standards, but after getting that second vaccine, it's just like, because there were times I would get a little scratchy throat or something. I'd be a little paranoid, all right, that I had COVID. And with all the interactions I deal with, and being near him, and then he got it. And then twice, actually, I actually, besides COVID test, I got I went to get for the antibody test. There was one test I was hoping was going to come back positive, but unfortunately it didn't. So I know for me it was very, very important, and it was kind of like a little relief, a sign of relief that, you're protected.
Yeah, actually, my father lives with us, and he's 89 years old. And we've had, during the whole COVID crisis, many times where my children I share custody of my children, and so they're with their father half the time and with me. And there was a tremendous fear in my kids this whole time that they were going to drag something back to my father, and they would be responsible for what would happen to him.
Mature thought to have.
Yeah,
for a
and
young
it was
person.
a
12-year-old?
Yeah, a lot of anxiety over that thought, and there were many times where my kids would quarantine, either in their room or they would stay at their father's because somebody they knew, they may have had contact. There was, and we had that for a year, and I'm sure this is not a unusual story. I'm sure many people have had the same thing, but I agree. When I took my father, he was of course the first one because of his age, to the VA hospital in Albany, and he got his vaccine. It was very emotional for me. He makes fun of me, I'm a crier. I was sobbing when he got his vaccine. It was such a relief for my whole family that at least he was vaccinated. So we're just so happy that we're all fully vaccinated and hoping to have life.
You are not alone, though. When we did the mass vaccinations that Greg and I helped out with, that Neil sponsored at the school, when people were getting that second shot, they were just, that relief was apparent, and they would be emotional and huggy and crying. It was like, wow.
You can't walk into the city clerk's office without somebody in that office. They go all teary and stuff. Especially now around graduation time, they talk about graduation and proms, and it's my kid. He's a senior now. Woo! Like, okay,
He laughs
I just
at
want to
me.
drop off my mail.
I called him when they had on line the first person to get the vaccine in New York State. They showed it live, and I was a teary mess for a I was just that it was here, that it was finally available.
Yeah, in fact, just yesterday or 2 days ago, I saw a picture because what did it mark? The 6-month anniversary of the
vaccine,
lady getting the first shot. Oh, I mean, to sit here today and boy, just to look back what we went through the last 16 months, and.
But now part of the reopening, right? You got to do it, and I think really the one thing, I'm looking at the clock, but I'm not trying to do much talking here, but the big thing is that the council approved a new hybrid system, right?
Yes. Yep. So we will be. We got approval to fit the chambers at City Hall and the committee room for committees and boards to maintain being hybrid, so that meetings can happen in person and online, as we've been doing for the last year and several months now. You've probably seen the same thing happen in Saugerties. Of course, everything immediately we had to figure out how we were going to continue to have government run the way it needs to run and be safe at home. So we've been doing all of our meetings through Zoom. And, the good thing that came out of that is that there's been at least 3 times the public involvement. It's been amazing. We've had some public hearings. Now, usually a public hearing will be me and the mayor in chambers, and it's 3 minutes long because nobody shows up. This past year, we had a public hearing last night where we had probably 10 people that logged in. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but we did have a few public hearings last summer. We had over 50 people who were participating in the public hearing. And, they went on for hours and hours, which makes for a very long evening. But the community involvement has never been like this. I've gotten phone calls from an adult son who had a parent at Golden Hill asking me how, give him specific instructions on how he could log in so that his mother and the person in her room could listen.
Participate in the meeting.
Yeah. So we would see maybe one phone number, but we know because we were told that there were several people who were listening and hadn't had that opportunity before.
We had a planning board meeting, and I forget what development it was, but it was critical for them to have the meeting. And one of the key players with this project development, and they were under some kind of a deadline. He was out of the country. He was somewhere in another country, and he was able to join the meeting, and did his spiel and had some slides, and just like he was in the next room.
Yeah.
So it did afford that opportunity, but I agree with you. It gives more individuals, and let's face it. You get into the winter months. I know even myself, after going all day, it's January, you go home, you take a shower, you get in the recliner.
Yeah.
You don't want to go back out. You don't want to go to a board meeting.
Yeah, I think even now in nice weather, like you said, you're all day long, you have the intention of going out, and then by the time you get home, you may not want to, you don't want to do that anymore. And this allows the public, whether you're, able to come out or if you're elderly or disabled, that you can now participate in local government, and that's just so important to have.
I agree. It helps, even from our perspective. People know what's going on firsthand. It's way better than hearing about it, someone else's interpretation at the coffee shop the next day. Way better.
And having essentially the government or the municipality control the video that it puts out, I think is important too, because in the past you'd rely on somebody with a, live stream or something from their phone or angle, or I think that's important. The other night, one of the meetings, I don't remember which one, went almost till midnight.
Yeah, it went till 12:03, actually. I know exactly what time it went to.
So, there, she just turned everything off and got into bed.
Oh, God, if I had to drive home at 12:03 a.m., I would not have been happy.
Away, shut down City Hall, there's a bunch of things that have to happen. So it does have, and again, the public interaction is a big component, right? I've always believed that you have to be part, or at least aware of what's going on in your community, at what the government's doing, right? We're paying taxes, a tremendous amount of taxes for the services it provides. You should have a handle on it, right? And right now, most people rely on either print or online news to get that, but here you can actually listen to every meeting. The agendas are posted well in advance. Mayor Noble has been very good about making sure that department heads and ultimately your office is responsible for posting, minimally a week in advance. I know there's some there's statutes, right, that talk about where they have to be posted, but you go to the city website and go to the meeting calendar, everything's listed, all right? The agenda's on there. You can see what of interest, if you have interest in the police commission. We have a meeting tonight. You can go on to that, look at it, and say, okay, here's the agenda. Oh, Tinti's talking again. I don't want to be on that meeting there. But you can certainly go there, and the ability we use Zoom pretty exclusively in the city, but the capability to go from open meeting to executive session, in and out, waiting rooms, all that stuff, it really was built well. And we couldn't have done it without, honestly, one, the mayor's direction. I mean, he knew exactly what he had to do and followed the lead of the governor and the county exec. And ultimately, without the IT staff, right? You can speak to that, right? So without Kyle, Eric, and Joel, there's
amazing.
Just no way.
Worth their weight in gold, that group.
Yeah, just last night, right?
Yeah.
You said you came home, you had to set something up. It wasn't connecting. There was a level of panic. You contacted him, right? And Eric
they take over my computer and fixed everything for me. Yeah, they are amazing.
So one of the things we're running into is we're still doing both. We have the in-person meeting available now, and we are trying to maintain that opportunity for people to WebEx in. But the quality of the meeting, depending on what's happening for the people who came on virtually or the people in the room, is better or worse. For example, we had an in-person presenter at the senior center at our last meeting who presented a slideshow, but that was all great for the folks who were there and pretty much horrible for the folks that were webbing in. So we're trying to overcome that challenge, and that is proving a little bit more difficult than we thought, because the minute you bring another device into the proximity of the device you're using to broadcast, you get all kinds of feedback. So
that system addresses that.
Yeah, so we don't have the new system in place yet. It has been ordered, but it is the same company that had come into City Hall when we did our microphones. So they are making everything compatible. The nice thing is that the money that is going to be paying for this was money that the city got as a result of COVID. And it does have very strict guidelines on how that money can be spent. There's some misinformation, of course, out there, and people want to know why there's not raises or why we're not hiring new people with that money, and we can't. The mayor follows what the guidelines are, and this is one of the things that they can spend the money on. Some of the money.
I got to tell you,
because we have
the misinformation stuff. It drives me crazy. The social media is unbelievable, and people can post stuff without any knowledge. Oh, that's not right. You don't even know what you're talking about. Stay quiet about it if you don't know what you're talking about. You, right? I'm talking to you, right?
So we also have, it's a historic building, so you can't go in and nail things into the wall. There's a lot of regulations on how things can be in City Hall. So some of the money, of course, is to create furniture that will hold the equipment, because the equipment, like you said, you bring something in, you can't really move this equipment around because it's expensive equipment, and you don't want to be rolling it all over the place.
Right.
Correct.
Wiring, some
Yeah.
wireless. There's
Right.
a lot of factors, right? But, again, I get tweaked when she says the misinformation because I do it to myself, right? We all look at the comments, and then we go, come on, right? Don't you have anything good to do in your life? Why is it always negative? I know you're biting your lip. I can see you're biting your lip. I get it, right? We're all in that boat, right? We post stuff, then we go, really? That's what you're worried about, right? We're trying to make the place better. Be part of the solution, or don't be part of the problem, right? That's it, right? That's the issue. So
There are people.
Oh, here we go, baby. This is what I'm talking about. It's going to be a good show.
There are people that thrive.
Yes.
Okay? Get up in the morning, and if there's not controversy, if they don't have something to moan and groan about, okay, they're not happy.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
They go through the day negative. And how a person can do that, I have no idea in the world. Because, there's going to be, we all come in every single day where there's going to be negative issues that we deal with. But there's solutions.
Yep.
Generally, for the most part, there's solutions. Is there solutions 100%? Maybe not. Maybe it's only 80%. But there are people that just thrive on, they wake up in the morning and they want to have controversy. There's gloom and doom.
What bothers me more than anything else, and she talks me down off the ledge almost every day. Stop. She goes, you got to just let it go.
She doesn't want you to jump.
There's days she's behind me. I feel, wait a minute. What are you doing?
I've had enough of him.
They don't, they put the information out. They could easily reach out for my office, and I'm talking about the police stuff, but you could easily reach out for my office to get the right information. The right information. They choose not to. That's what bothers me. So at this point in my life and career, I discount them. You're not worth my time. And it may be harsh to the listeners, but the truth is, that's how I have to lead I don't have time for your...
I agree 100% with you.
Time for you.
Or the ones that call and scream over the phone when they leave a message for you,
I won't.
and they don't leave a name or a number.
I won't tolerate that. Ma'am, if you don't lower your voice, I'm going to hang up on you. I won't tolerate that. My father's the only one that was allowed to yell at me like that. Stop. Oh, okay, goodbye. And that's it. I'm professional, but I won't tolerate it. I won't tolerate it.
We shouldn't have to. We should.
The only person now that can yell at me. That's it.
Is
only one.
Is a city a clerk in a certain city?
That's right.
But you're right. All it takes, you're going to take the time to post something on social media, and it's wrong, it's inaccurate. That same amount of time, you could reach out to the head honcho, the horse's mouth, whatever you want to call it, and get the accurate information. Right. Then if you choose to go ahead and post, go ahead. But
everyone has an opinion. I try not to judge whether mustard or ketchup should go on somebody's hot dog, right? That's up to them. But at the end of the day, when it's truly misinformation, right? We just had a crisis intervention training at Ulster County Community College, put on in conjunction with the Saugerties Police Department. Captain Filak, he was one of the main presenters, our retired Detective Lieutenant Crozier. It was excellent. I was at the graduation Friday. We had 9 of our KPD officers that attended. We feel strongly. The re-envisioning task force said CIT is important. So we invested a lot, both in scheduling, the staffing, all that stuff. We posted it, and there's negative comments. Is this what cops do all day? Are you kidding me, right? And I say it all the time. They won't say it to my face. They'll put it on a post on a keyboard that they have on their phone in a basement, dark space somewhere, but they don't have the guts to call my office and say it, right? I got no time for that anymore. And it does bother me. It does. I try not to let it, but we're moving forward, right? And as you said before, there's problems and challenges that
but you know better than to fall into that trap. They're motivated because someone they knew or they got pulled over for something they didn't think was justified. So no matter what you do, that color of that shirt bothers me.
Yes,
and that's it.
Right.
And I'm going to post that on Facebook because I'm mad. And that's, we unfortunately, you have to deal with those things.
And we try to be as accommodating as possible. I know from your perspective, you say all the time, people come in your office and there's a waiting period, right? You have to wait for the marriage licenses or the paperwork isn't right, and you explain to them, listen, I just can't, you don't understand, I can't help you with this, you have to, and they lose their mind, right?
Yeah, I had one yesterday. Somebody came in for a marriage license, and they did not have the correct documentation, and I have a new clerk, which I'm very excited to say. We have a bilingual clerk in my office, and he is just wonderful, which has been an absolute...
Extraordinarily helpful, I'm sure.
Oh, my God. Yes. So yesterday, I'm getting off topic here. He was born and raised in Kingston, and Spanish is his first language, and he has just been wonderful. I said to my husband, I think it must have gotten out in the Spanish-speaking community, because all day yesterday I could hear him speaking Spanish, like all day long, helping so many people, and it's been so frustrating on my end, on the public's end when they come in, and we haven't been able to help them to the level that they really needed help. So he's just wonderful. I'm very excited to have him.
He's going to be the gateway for those folks to get to all kinds of resources. Great.
Yeah.
Super.
Yep.
We have a police officer who doesn't
Yeah.
feel bad in a sense, because he's answering questions about all kinds of things that may not be police related, but he's terrific too, and happy to do it.
And it's a good component to have a cop who's bilingual. For us, Spanish speaking, and we're lucky, we have two of them currently. And for us, it's important because they do bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Because there is some apprehension on some of the members of the Hispanic community to interact with the police officers for whatever reason, whether immigration, whatever it might be. So they do close that gap. Hesitantly in some cases because people are weary, but it has worked out great. Detective Reyes and Officer Geraldo Reich do an awesome job with the community interaction, and we lean heavy on them. That's the thing, right? Where you have them, you got to put them to use. So, my son is on the job now, and he's bilingual, but it's German. We don't have much interaction with German, And me, my Italian's limited now. I haven't really used it, so occasionally, because again, it's a language that's not prevalent around here. But I think I had one translation request for Italian back in like 2002 or something, and the person was an elderly gentleman, just had trouble speaking at all, really, and then had a dialect from southern Italy, which was like a different Italian, and I struggled. I almost started drawing pictures, but it was an assault. He hit somebody with a shovel, right? So we got to figure it out, right? So, but no, it's interesting. Right?
It's that we are just so lucky to have him, and he's full of energy, and he just brings life to the office. He's learning fast, and we just absolutely love him. I do have an app on my phone that I use, iTranslate, and I pay for it, but it's been worth it because it's for any language.
It helps you out a lot.
Yeah. I mean, not everyone who doesn't speak English is speaking Spanish. So as long as we can try to figure out what language they are speaking, I can help them in some way.
We talked about that too, getting those placards. You can download them online now, offline, and you point to the language, right? Which language do you speak? You point to it, and it tells you, and then you just go to iTranslate, and so that helps too. I mean, it's very few and far between that happens, but again, government is designed to help people, right? We are there to give services, and if you get there and you can't get the services you need, it's a problem.
A lot of times, people will bring in a small child because that's who they know can speak both languages.
That gap.
Yeah. So, it's been
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I worked for City of Kingston, I worked at Ulster Bosse's in adult education, and that's not uncommon that they would bring a child in to fill out the paperwork because they couldn't, a lot of times can't read or write in their first language, never mind their second language. So
it's pretty amazing.
Yes.
And we actually signed up for Spanish.
Yes.
And, accelerated class, kind of an immersion type course. And the instructor was great. She was awesome. And then
COVID hit.
And COVID hit, and everything stopped, she was, she had Spanish in high school. I took French, which
not a lot of use for that.
Not much anymore. So I try every so often. I'll say a word or two. But
actually, Chief, you have a little bit of exposure to Spanish, Italian, and French. Those are the three major Latin. You can muddle through if you had to.
Muddle through. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can understand. Like if someone spoke Italian, I understand every word. I have no issue. I don't know what the disconnect is, and I know the word. I can hear it in my head. I can't say it. My lips will not form the word. There's something locked up between here and it's weird. I know it. My aunt, most of my family, older family, speaks Italian. My aunts, my uncles, so when they see me, that's half Italian, half English, but mostly Italian, right? As you do, and then they go on. And no problem. But my response, although the words are up here, come out in English. I can't do it. It's I tell her all the time, I don't understand what the lockup is. There's something going on here, right? Even French. As long as someone speaks slowly, right? Our detective lieutenant, Terry Crozier, spoke French fluently. Mm-hmm. So every so often he would say stuff, just as and I could understand it. Slowly, I could understand the words. Every so often, I just, like, one word will come out, so it's just, I don't know, I just don't use it enough. And even Elmo, right, with his German, we went to school, we had to exchange, it was all good, but his interaction's limited, right? His grandmother speaks
Use it or lose it, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things. So we are going back. I think it is very important. We encourage all the kids, right, to go back and learn Spanish. It is important. And again, right, the naysayers who are out there will say, that's not right. If you're in America, speak English. The fact of the matter is, as public servants, and that's our decision to serve our community as a public servant, we can serve it better by being bilingual. We have to do that. So
it's part of our tradition, though. There was a bad mining accident in, I think, Montana 130 years ago, and one of the things that came out of that, there was a picture of the instructions to go work in the mine, and it was in like 8 different languages back then. It's part of our culture. We can feel how we want about it, but those families you just described, we are the melting pot.
We are.
It's just inevitable. That's who we are, and we should be proud of it.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's interesting. I don't have time to do it. But
So we're at
my wife. She's a language. She can speak multiple languages fluently. It's pretty incredible. And I didn't, academically, I never took part of it. And the only reason I know a little bit of Italian is because of my grandparents. So we went to Cancun together, and we're on the bus. And I'm sitting there on the bus, and all of a sudden, I'm like picking up on the Spanish conversation and understand what they're saying. And I'm like, what the hell, did I hit my head? And I'm like, babe, I understand what they're saying. She's like, yeah, of course you do. And she's the one who told me about the Latin base to the 3. And I'm like, oh, I never knew that. And then it's kind of a curiosity now, but I can't make time for it. All right, thanks, Lawrence. I'm out of time again.
We are out of time, so you have to leave?
No.
I have to leave.
You have to
leaving
leave.
us? No, I'm here till 9.
Okay, nice.
Lucky you.
Okay, thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming
Senator.
in. Thanks for the update, and we'll see you on Friday for the residents of the city of Kingston. What new changes are coming out of
Very
City Hall?
excited.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us.
Thank you.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here. And it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, this is Jim Quigley, supervisor of the town of Ulster, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
Rondout Savings Bank has a long history of serving local communities and maintaining a strong tradition of customer service excellence while providing each customer with the personal attention they deserve. Rondout Savings' approach to community banking puts you and the growth of your business in the front of everything they do. They're a different kind of bank and would like to tell you why, so please reach out to one of their expert business bankers for an appointment and let them show you what they can do for you. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and those listeners who have been with us for the first hour, welcome back. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We'd love to hear from you. We have City of Kingston Police Chief Jid Tinti here in the studio, along with his Deputy Chief, Mike Bonse. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And we have Fred Costello, Supervisor from the town of Sorgetes.
Good morning.
And we've got birthdays.
We do have a couple birthdays.
We'll start right off with that. All right. Well, happy birthday. Wishing a happy birthday to Shara Dassey. Your friends at People's Place, we hope you enjoy your special day.
I'm actually happy to be able to announce this one. Happy 80th birthday to Pat Sawtell. Pat, happy birthday from your friends at the Wellness and Healthy Lifestyle Club.
Happy birthday, Pat. We know Pat well.
We do know Pat
Her
well.
husband
Maybe
Herb
you did
helps
say
us
that,
out at the
didn't
academy and the police department, and good friends of the family.
It's a good milestone, too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And today's winner of the famous cow pie from Boy's Dairy Milk House is Shara Dassey. Shara, congratulations. Happy birthday. When you get the opportunity, get down to Boy's Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, right here in Kingston, New York. Pick up your famous cow pie, which is courtesy of Boy's Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. And listeners, please continue to send the birthdays in, the anniversaries. It's very easy to do. You can email to kcr921@gmail.com. You can postal mail to KCR at P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York, 12402. Once again, Shara Dassey, congratulations. Enjoy your cow pie. Happy birthday, and have an awesome day.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
So welcome. And you off air we started talking about you guys are filling some positions and you got some movement. That's good.
We do. Yeah, we had the Deputy Chief, John Wallace, retired. Mike filled his position. So that promotion took place a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. Detective Lieutenant Terry Crozier retired. So that has that position. So we're essentially looking at 2 lieutenant spots right now, but the possibility exists that we implement different plans on supervision. We found, although it's a very difficult time for us with the staffing levels and backfilling the positions and hiring, and it is, when I tell you, a huge challenge for us. Probably one of the top 3, right, Mike? I mean, it's one of those things where, you would think it's easy to find people interested in doing police work, and then finding qualified candidates within that group. That is not the case. One, there's a hesitation, and we've talked about this on the radio show before, there's a hesitation to become a cop. It's just that simple. And I think I would love to be able to see the comparison to applicants or candidates interested in doing town or village police work as and county work as opposed to city policing. I know, we look at our sister cities, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, and they struggle as well, right? The same thing. And so there's those.
I don't know that there's a distinction between city, town, or village. I kind of think it's a struggle for law enforcement in general because I know we're experiencing it to a degree, and a a lot of what drives the problem we're having is we get interested candidates who are qualified, but they can make more money other places, so they leave. So
That
we
is
end
the
up
challenge,
basically serving as a training ground.
Yeah,
So
and-
that's one of it.
And the pool is so small right now, right?
Mhm.
There is a statewide, a nationwide, and certainly a local shortage of interested applicants. And then, who's got the best pay, who's got the best benefit package, or whether it's the type of work that draws them. We've had applicants on our list that have declined a position with us to take jobs at other police departments that, maybe a little bit more their style of policing, like the chief mentioned. I would rather go to a town or a village. City policing is a little bit different, and it draws.
There's a level of intensity that applicants are sensitive to.
There's a certain scrutiny I think that comes along with city policing that a lot of town polices don't experience the same level of scrutiny, and the call volume itself, right? The number of instances that are occurring. So all those I think play a factor.
We've had one, I obviously won't say names, but we've had one candidate decline when they found out how to do a polygraph. Polygraph. Yeah. Right. So,
Good. Thank you for not applying.
But the truth is, there's agency, right? And we can talk about just the civil service aspects or the hiring practices within the state, how it's different from agency to agency. But you can be a cop in certain jurisdictions and never go through a stringent background investigation. It's mind-boggling, but it's true.
I could see that, especially when you get into like the North Country, the rural areas in New York State, where everything's a little more laid back, a little more lax.
And there's no obligation. It's not like the only civil service guidelines or hiring guidelines, and you're going to make sure I'm on point with this one, is there's a written exam in order to become a full-time officer. You have to be between the ages of 20 and 34, well, 35 for the birthday. And then you have to pass a physical fitness exam and a medical screening. And that is it. And the medical screening comes after conditional employment's being offered. But the polygraph, the psychological, and
The level of the background
and
investigation,
the
it's
background,
all
right.
agency dependent. Yeah, there's no standardization.
Right.
I know, and you guys have been concerned about finding a candidate that you guys would passed on or we passed on, and then you find out they're at another agency someplace else, and we're like, how did that happen?
This individual turned us down and is now working as a part-time police officer somewhere else.
Well, I mean, so anybody who has responsibility to oversee a police department, you have to know who you're hiring. And if those red flags raise, you have to be like, okay, thank you, but you're not a good candidate for us because that's going to haunt you. And if you go down the road, especially today, those red flags could be leading indicators of things that would make the department in general look bad.
And the industry, right?
And the industry as well, yeah.
Even just to clarify to the listeners, viewers, the polygraph is all about finding out the background of the candidate. And a lot of it rests on, we use a private service to do it, a retired police officer. He does a great job. He asks the questions for employment relative to police work and asks certain questions of those that are either former law enforcement or current law enforcement coming and taking the exam for Kingston. But, the first disqualifier on a polygraph is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they detect deception, you're done. Like, that's it, right? So if you're truthful and you admit to things that you've done, that doesn't disqualify you. We've had people admit to drug use in the past when they were 16, 18 years old, and now they're 30 years old and haven't done anything, right? They've been clean, and we're interested in those candidates, right? We want that. We've looked at people that have had trouble in their juvenile years, right? They either had an arrest that was, sealed and they've admitted to it. That's okay. But if you say, have you ever been arrested? No, beep, and the thing goes off. You're like, wait a minute, you're lying to me, right? So
honesty is a huge component. Because
and it's not just an automatic fail, right? I don't want people thinking, oh, the needle goes and now you're fail. The report, that polygraph examiner just gives it to us, and we act on those results. But once they detect deception, and there's significant response in some of these examiners' reports, the determination as to what we do with that information, the examiner will then ask, hey, listen, you're showing some significant response in this question. Are you sure there isn't something more to this? And they'll like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I stole something from the store when I was 14, and well, it's still showing it here. Was there something? Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was a tire, and they'll elaborate, and then they'll show, oh, okay, you're good, right? And they'll put it in the report, and does that disqualify you? No, it doesn't. The lie will disqualify you.
I was just going to say, one thing that bothers me is, and there's no excuse, I hate liars, plain and simple. You know, you're in an interview for a job, and you lie. Right away, the projection I get back on the individual, is he going to continue this kind of practice if I hire him? And it's got to be the same with you folks also.
Yeah, it's all about integrity.
You know, integrity, honesty, I take that in high value. And plain and simple, there's no reason for anyone to lie whatsoever. You make a mistake, everybody mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. Okay, the only people who don't make mistakes are people who don't do anything. Because if you don't do anything, you can't make a mistake. So, the whole bottom line is just be honest and be upfront about it. Don't lie.
And then we tell them that the examiner tells them that from the beginning. There's two components really. There's the interview and the questions, and then there's the verification. Right? It's like a radar detector. We train officers to judge speed. The radar class is about looking at a vehicle and going 42 miles an hour. And then the radar detector just verifies that the officer is within that zone. That's all, right? So, but the examiner, again, 16 weeks of training? How many weeks is it? For 6?
Yeah, different ones, but yeah, 16, some of them are 20.
Yeah, so some of the polygraph courses are extensive. It's a lot of work to do this. So, and we started that component, I dare say, 10, maybe 12 years ago, right? I think under Chief Keller, we put it in there. And it didn't come without some discussion, right? There was a lot of, is it accurate? Can you use it? And, we're not drilling into a specific incident, right? If we suspect that you committed a burglary and you say, yeah, I'll come in, I didn't do it. Let's, we can ask you very specific questions about you, your actions, your location, what about that burglary. But when you're talking about an employment question, have you ever stolen something or committed a crime that went undetected? Yeah, now I got to think about it, right? Mm-hmm. Or have you been involved in an accident that you didn't report? Have you used drugs as an adult, illegal drugs? And the words are very specific, right? So, those are the things that you have to ask. You administer all of it, right? We're trying to get these promotions, hopefully, will allow us to kind of hand off some of the administrative tasks you've been responsible for 10 years, 11 years. And you are eager, aren't you, Mike?
I am. I'm really looking forward to these promotions, not just for the members that are going to get the promotions, but I have 3 piles on my desk. This has to get done now. This eventually has to get done. And this new pile that's growing is all the stuff that I can't wait to hand off to the next person that comes along. So, and that'll be one of them. But now the polygraph has been a great tool, and it's a little different when you look at examining a person's entire life, right? All those questions versus the specific thing. We've had candidates sometimes where they'll flag on something initially when the examiner's talking to them, and then through discussion find out, this happened before you were 18 years old. So on the questionnaire it says, have you done any of these things since you were 18 years old? And then the person will say, no, of course I didn't. Then they'll get to that section, and sometimes they'll start to show a response. And sometimes with that drilling down, it turns out, well, I did it, but I was 16. And it's hard to tell a human, like, I know I did something wrong, but it was before I was 18, so it doesn't matter, right? So that's what those follow-up interviews and when they flag it and they look. And then other times we've had 1 or 2 along the way that the person was 100% honest, but you just really couldn't live with the answers either, right? There's some things that get divulged that don't come up in a regular background investigation that come out of that. But I think more people than not pass it than the applicants. By the time they get to that point, by the time they've been through the background investigation, they've been through the interviews with the police commission, it's a small percentage that don't make it past the polygraph. And I think probably more, without exact numbers, I would say more that have not made it past polygraph were people that didn't make it because of deception and lying. Right. There's been very few that the polygraph divulged something that we weren't aware of.
Their background packet asks all the same questions, variations of the question, but the same questions. So we already know, before the polygraph examiner even gets their chance, and it has to be offered, 3 things have to be offered: medical, polygraph, and psychological, all post conditional employment offer. So we bring them in, the commissioners, we now do a command staff interview. So we bring myself, the deputy chief, the lieutenants, we'll come in, we'll interview. We ask more of the operational, hands-on, field type of questions of the individuals, whether they have police experience or not, their goals, their aspirations, that type of thing. Does family life affect it? And then the commissioners, normally the meetings are essentially back to back or a day within a day of each other. And then the commissioners will ask questions that are relative to their needs as a civilian oversight committee. And, once that's done, they'll say, okay, out of these 8 candidates, we chose these 4 to fill these vacancies. And then ultimately, the deputy chief would schedule all these other things, and whoever the new lieutenants are going to be are going to be taking over these responsibilities. But then they sign up for a psychological exam, which is really a duty, right? I think what they call it IPI, right? The annual personality.
Yeah, personality survey. Yep.
So and it's really driven towards police work, right? That's the ideal exam, and it was recommended to us by Dr. Gerald Fix. We've been using IPI for a while, in-wall personality, but he's now kind of moved us up to a little bit more, an upgraded version of it. And then from there, he'll take a look at the results and determine whether a face-to-face interaction has to take place. And more so than not, he does that. And we prefer that. We prefer that he sits down with someone because we want to determine through the psychological stability, right, whether something is a key that triggers anger issues or any potential. We're talking about, and this is, as people know, we're looking at a 25-year career. 25 years in law enforcement before retirement, in Tier 6, right? So it's a huge investment for the city. And if we can catch something that might be a problem, boy, this person has, the doctor may say, yeah, he's got a power issue, right? We're concerned about this. So really, his determination is one of the factors, right? So if they go in for medical, and just because they pass the PT doesn't mean that they don't find something. Right there, we had a candidate that had an issue. Initially, was said pending approval based upon a heart. There was an issue with like a heart palpitation or something. So they had to go through an entire, stress test and ultimately passed it. It's a genetic defect to some degree that was passed on from parents or whatever. And so I think that's part of it. And then the last part of it is the polygraph. And so at any point we can rescind the offer of employment. And we do all that.
You have to take advantage of that window, though.
Yeah.
Because once that person starts and they're off their probationary period, they really got to mess up.
Yeah.
And you're going to be investing more in individual training or assistance to make that person a successful employee, and that could be a lengthy process as well. And it may not work out. So now you could be 4 or 5 years in with a person, and you're still trying to dance, and it's just not going to happen. It diverts a lot of resources, and it doesn't represent the agency well, and it's just tough. But
it's a big
take advantage
factor.
of that window at the front
side. It's worth the investment. Even the background investigations. Our detective division is the busiest it's been in
ever.
It is never. Caseload is unbelievable. The amount of work within each case, right? We've had the homicides, the shooting investigations, just the burglaries, really the commercial burglaries, and we're really hitting it hard now. And because of the staffing, a lot of it's got to be done on extra hours, overtime, and so on. So very fortunate to be working with other agencies, Ulster County Sheriff, and the state police, which has been great. And the state police really has, and I'll say short of a full-time investigator, it's almost full-time, right? One of the investigators down there has been absolutely unbelievable, working almost every day in our place, helping with these cases, and we just need that. We just can't do it with ourselves, and the resources the state police brings is second to none. I mean, they're incredible. They work well with us. So
they have that broad perspective and the resources that go along with it, and the labs, and it's pretty amazing. But and certainly, as small agencies by comparison, we can't match that in any way. So you need them.
And so one of the promotions we're looking at is, since Detective Lieutenant Crozier retired, now we have a detective lieutenant's position opening, and essentially they're the orchestrator of the day-to-day operations. And right now that's fallen on Detective Sergeant Brian Robertson, and Brian Robertson is amazing. Go ahead.
He is boundless energy. Is really the only thing I can say. He is nonstop, absolute pure energy all the time, and nobody's more committed or devoted
he's
to that job.
dedicated for sure.
Yeah, unbelievable. Really, Brian came on a year before I did, and he came on in 1991 because essentially they hired him, and because he wasn't local, we went to Onteora, they immediately put him undercover on the back of a garbage truck got paid through DPW. Like, so no one knew.
Nobody even knew he was a
There
police
were three-
officer.
I think, if I recall, and at some point we'll have to probably bring Brian on. But there was like 3 people in the entire city that knew, short of the commission, that knew that he got hired as a police officer. Everyone else, they put him in through DPW. They made him grow his hair long, beard, the whole thing, and put him back on the back of a Packard during the day, and then had him in the bars and in the alleys buying, and he was responsible for a huge, right? It was incredible the work that he did in that first year, and loved it. Once he got bit by that bug, like, he's never left it. So throughout the years, he's always been assigned to either our special investigations. For a while, they were part of Urgent under Paul Van Blarcom, the Sheriff Van Blarcom at the time, worked there, and then came back and then ultimately got promoted to sergeant and has taken over for, still in SIU, but knows. That's it, right? Nearly his entire career, right? We're getting on 30 years now. 29 of them has been narcotics work, right? That he served in patrol. He did a great job in uniform, but his heart has always been, and really, people.
He's kind of been the go-to guy.
He's the go-to guy
for everyone.
Yeah, you definitely got to bring him on one of these months.
Yeah. Oh, I have to. The stories this guy has, and still is. I'll share this during his interview. Even he was like, he just can't hold it. Like, my knee goes sometimes. And he'll just, at one point, he sends me a text. He's like, we got to lock that chair. Like, and even the commissioners were great, because Brian is one. He's on top of it. He never shuts off. Yeah, you mentioned it the other day, right? He got an injury a while back, and we said to him, well, all right, well, it's going to take a couple of months to heal up, spraying or whatever it was. And no, once he got it slinged, he was back. And we tell him, listen, you cannot leave your office, right? We can't.
Yeah, good luck with that.
We just can't do it, right? So we hear him out on the call, right? So, but he is all about the work and just amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. So,
well, I use the words a lot of times, initiative, commitment, dedication, pride in what you do. There's obviously a very real good example. Takes a lot of pride in what he does in serving you and serving the residents of the city of Kingston.
Not even me. I mean, Brian and I went.
Department.
Yeah,
the
no, I mean,
department.
we worked at the academy together, and even back then, he said, at the time it was Sergeant Ralph Appa, who pulled the 3 KPD guys, myself, Brian Robertson, and Norman Good, pulled us aside towards the end of graduation when it looked like everything was good, and he said, what do you want? Like, what are we looking for in your career? And I knew I wanted to take the training path. Once I got into the academy, I'm like, man, this is something I like. I like that training aspect of it. And Norm Good said, I want to be an investigator, and I'm looking for like white collar crime stuff. And he ultimately followed his heart and his goal. And Brian, without hesitation, said, I want to do undercover narcotics work, and has been assigned to task forces and Mid-Hudson stuff and state police and federal, and just he is so well-rounded when it comes to this. So for those listening, I'm trying to paint the picture of a guy who is just involved in so many, I'll say undercover investigations, but non-traditional detective or duty detective investigations. He's well-versed in both, but his forte is the undercover stuff, right? The behind the scenes, the narcotics, the drugs, the guns, the violence, the gangs, all that stuff. And, he is going in for an interview for a detective lieutenant, which is more of an administrative command staff level position. It's not really a boots on the ground. Like we say all the time, like he runs with the wolves when he's a detective sergeant. Now we're asking him to kind of stay back at the den. So we've had. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm going to just interrupt that part of the story for a second. My phone was just going off, and trying to pay attention because we are working, right? and it was Brian, and we have.
Is he listening?
No, he's not listening. He had way too much energy to sit and listen to us. So we just hired 4 new officers this week. They started on Monday. 2 of them have to go to the academy. 2 of them are already police officers, so we just got to get them into field training, get them on the street. So in their first week of training with us, the first day is an orientation. We issue gear, policies, procedures, that kind of stuff. And then the next couple days we'll do use of force, defensive tactics update, handcuffing. We'll do firearms issuance, that kind of stuff. So this morning, one of our defensive tactics instructors has the 4 new officers out there doing defensive tactics update and use of force stuff. So Brian was just texting me to let me know he's going to be a little late. He is at the training with the 4 new guys working on the defensive tactics stuff on his way into work, right? That's
And here's so
literally doesn't stop.
Brian is I hope I get this right, bro. It's a second degree black belt, mixed martial arts. And I am telling you, like, he has always been. He's smaller in stature, right?
But don't mess with him.
I'll tell you. So and I know the two people. Brian's one of the people in the story, and the other one is Blaine Smith, who was one of the lead defensive tactics instructor. Blaine was our go-to guy when it came to training. Still is, right? Still heavy into the academy. He's retired, works part-time at the town of Ulster. So at one point, they're on the mat. There's a recruit class going on. Brian had just gone through defensive tactics instructor course, so they're helping out. And Blaine's a big guy, right? Size, all of it, right? Big chest, arms, the whole thing. You wouldn't want to mess with him, right? He's definitely somebody that you don't want to get close to. And at one point, there's a little pushing, shoving match, right? Everyone's trying to push type A personalities, and at one point, they're like laughing and giggling for a little while, and then at one point, Blaine really pushes them. And as I'm standing back with one of the other instructors, I saw Brian Robertson climb Blaine like a spider monkey. Like a spider monkey. He climbed him. He just wrapped himself around and took Blaine to the mat. And Blaine had to tap out. Like, we were all shocked. Like, so you can't judge really a book by its cover. Like, Brian, he never comes off as, he doesn't have that type of personality. He's low key, but I would not want to grab him the wrong way. I'm telling you, right? Like, how many times he's again, because he's a boots on the ground kind of guy. He has always been in it, right? You hear that radio, and he's in there, right? When you hear N1, which is his designation, he's in it, right? He's Brian's on the scene, right? So, and he just loves it. He lives for this job. His father was a police officer in New York City, and just it's in the blood. It's in the blood. What a great guy, great addition, huge asset for Kingston, and really everybody in the Hudson Valley. He has been, I know Saugerties.
Yeah, we've worked with him a number of times.
And stuff, so it really is a good component to have. And I dare say he's probably the longest running narcotics officer that
in the whole region.
Yeah.
Almost 30 years, you said, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. He did uniform with me for a little while. We answered calls and stuff, and it was great. I mean, he is just a solid guy, very confident, has the respect, and I say this, absolutely, has the respect of every cop in that agency, hands down. But the next thing, and we've had long talks, we've come up through the ranks together, and I've leaned heavy on him. I've loaded him up. Short of the deputy chief, who I actually thought I broke his back, loading him up with tasks, because he never said no. Okay. Next was Brian. I would put a lot on Brian, and he always succeeded. He just doesn't have a no-go, doesn't have a quit attitude. Just doesn't have it in him.
We are at the bottom of the hour, but these two gentlemen are not going anywheres because Senator Michelle Hinchy could not join us due to scheduling conflicts. So we'll be back in a few, listeners.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Central Hudson reminds you that summer thunderstorms can strike with strong, gusty winds, knocking down trees and power lines. If you see a downed power line, call 911 immediately to report it. Power lines can carry an electric current strong enough to cause injury or death. Stay at least 30 feet away from a fallen line. Don't try to move it or anything that has come in contact with it. And never drive over a power line. Remember, your safety matters.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, listeners who have been with us this morning. Those just joining us for the very last half hour, welcome. 331-9255 is our call-in number. And in the studio here, as they have been for the last, well, you've been here for the last hour.
Wow, is that normally like what you give the Chiefs, an hour, or is it usually an hour and a half?
No, never. There's
no other Chief has had a full hour and a half here.
No.
Wow, I feel honored. Boy, that's interesting.
You know, now that you mention that to me, you should feel honored.
That's all right. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
And for those just joining us, we're talking about Jid Tinti, City of Kingston Police Chief. And alongside of him is Deputy Chief Mike Bonse, City of Kingston. And Fred Costello's on the phone out in the lobby, but Fred's on the phone a lot. A supervisor from the town of Sorg. He's busy man. And yeah, this is, I guess we could call record setting.
I love this job sometimes. We were talking about promotions before, and one of the candidates going in for interview is Detective Sergeant Brian Robertson. And we have, a number of people involved. I won't go through the entire list, but I got to tell you, everybody that we interviewed yesterday at the command staff level, again, these are currently sergeants looking for the promotion to lieutenant, did a great job. Right,
everyone's a qualified candidate. We're really fortunate with the staff that we have, and even the next level. So yesterday we also did interviews of police officers and detectives looking to get promoted to sergeant, because inevitably, if we promote lieutenants from the sergeant ranks, we're going to have some vacancies in the sergeant ranks, and every one of them did a great job. We had 5 of them in there, and it was refreshing to see that there wasn't a bad choice among the 10 people that came in yesterday.
Okay, so now you just said just prior to the break 4 new officers. Does that bring you to a full complement of officers? You're still short?
We'll still be short 1. Yeah, with the retirement of Detective Lieutenant Crozier, we still have 1 more, and we're in the middle of doing backgrounds and
Terry retired.
Processing and
wow. What a great guy he is.
Yeah, oh yeah, he was excellent.
Personality and
all of it. He was awesome. Yeah.
Yes, actually, I saw he social media. He put a picture of himself out the other day, and I told him, "Man, retirement looks good on you." He looks refreshed. It's good to see.
When I saw him at the graduation last Friday, I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "Man, I didn't know my wife had a long list for me to stuff to do. You know, like I got to get stuff done.
Busier than ever."
Yeah. So he goes, "But I miss it. I miss the guys. I miss the work." And so
actually, you're not in bad shape being down just 1.
No, the only thing that it's still a little bit of a challenge is that we have 2 in the police academy right now.
Right, they're not on the street. Right. So actually 3.
And 2 more that just got hired will need to go to the academy in August.
Oh, okay.
So we won't really see them on the street probably till January or February.
So now we're at 5. So
yeah, it adds up quick, right? It adds up quick.
See, this is what obviously the public does not see. So a lot of people, even officials that sit in offices, that the amount of training that an individual has to go through.
Even we hired 2 that are currently sworn police officers, experienced police officers, and they still have to go through our field training program. It's still going to be probably 2 months before they'll, count on the schedule. 2 months worth of field training, and really it's almost 3 months of field training before they're able to work on their own. And that's having the academy, already having some field experience. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of resources that go into the onset of somebody's career and bringing folks in.
Now, Chief, I believe you told me, and I could be wrong, this is quite some time ago, you don't utilize any kind of a part-time force or part-time officer call-out?
We don't have anything like that. There's no provisions within the PBA or the CBA contract with the city to have part-time, except for dispatchers. We have part-time dispatchers to offset the full-timers, but there's no provision to do that. And we've looked at, reserve officers, auxiliary officers, stuff like that, right? One, it would have to be negotiated to have that position in there. And two, it does present some scheduling issues that we've never had to deal with before. So that's a whole other can of worms that we'd have to open. Does it have merit? Yeah, I've seen other agencies do it where they use part-time officers to backfill certain positions within it. Because of the challenges of serving a municipal environment with the call volume we have, and it is, I think, it would really have every little detail would have to be worked out, not just having police officers. I mean, you can't do the job in our city. I see it from just our perspective, working 1 day a week. You just can't do it. You lose skill set. I mean, every shift is handling 2 to 3 domestic violence calls a shift, and the average is 2 per shift, which is a lot for us. We have 5 officers on the street. We send 2 officers to that call for safety measures, and it ties you up for an hour, especially since we're part of the IPV program, Intimate Partner Violence Program. And that, we have paperwork and additional stuff that we do, additional, requirements as part of that we move on through the District Attorney's Office for prosecution and follow-up. So there's a lot of work in that. So the one thing that set us back slightly, and Mike was responsible for 100% of this, was really the training aspect of the department. And because of COVID and the lockdowns and some of obviously what we had to go through, that really kind of put a damper on that level of progress that we've experienced, right? So we're moving out of it. CIT was one of the first things. We've had, Sargady's hosted the FTO program in January. We have a couple of FTOs now that are coming through. But it is a challenge, right, to try to get out there. We just had one of our officers, Michael Mills, go through firearms instructor class. And it takes resources. It takes staffing to backfill positions when you send people to training, and then it takes the financial aspect of travel, cost, overnight stays, whatever it might be, to do that. So it is, for the listeners and the viewers, it is an absolute challenge to work in a police environment, any police, town, village, whatever it might be. And again, one position could make or break whether or not we move in a proactive sense when it comes to investigations. Our Special Investigations Unit works with a number of detectives and special assignment officers. Well, when we can't lift the patrol schedule, which is really the primary responsibility of our agency, when we can't free them up, then SIU suffers. When we can't have enough patrol officers to backfill the detective promotion, then detective division suffers. So it is a juggling act, right? Do
more with less.
Right, yeah. But there's never a day where there's that nirvana where you have everybody in a spot where you want them to be, and you can move.
It was one. I think February.
One day.
February of 2012.
You had that one day.
We did. We had full staffing. There was nobody out on illness, injury, or anything else. I think it was one day. Yeah, February.
Okay.
February 2012.
Worth noting because that's.
Oh yeah, you remember it, right? It's like that.
If you remember, it might not happen again in your career.
No, it is an absolute difficult challenge every time, and the mayor has been extremely supportive. The council, has been supportive in getting these bodies after COVID, right? Once we kind of knew where we're moving as a city, so we immediately started to backfill these positions. But then we found that the problem is the candidates, right? It's not just the city's ready to go.
And now you have to find qualified
candidates. And we're very
candidates.
lucky. We did a great job, right?
And even that, we've been really active this year in hiring, but with all the effort we've put into it and all the spots we filled and are still working on filling, just I guess looking at a snapshot of our experience since January, we've had 2, off the top of my head, 2 officers that were in the midst of processing turn us down to go somewhere else. 2 others that through the course of processing, didn't complete the processing, that we didn't follow through on. And, just in an effort to fill the what are we at? 6 or 8 new officers we've had in the last few months. Almost 4 that we never even got to, even though they took the physical agility, even though they sat for the interview, they did everything up to that point, and still weren't able to to retain them. So it's that part of it's definitely been a challenge. And you think about we were just talking a little bit before about how much time goes into them when we first get them before they'll actually start to count on the schedule and be able to use them for other things. The first half of somebody's, first half of the year, their career, it's just about training and orientation, and then really hoping that you retain those people after you put all those investment. And you've talked about before, right? You train them and you lose them.
And, it's tough.
Yeah, it's
plus, so to a degree, this is true in the agencies as well. When you can't move forward and leave people behind, so you're kind of set by the pace of the new folks coming in. They have to be able to come along at the same pace as everyone else. So as they're becoming brought up to speed, so to speak, it may slow down the agency as an overall, because now you have to, your officer who may be able to handle more is spending time to make sure that person builds the resources and the skill set to be successful. And that's part of it as well. But it's the cost of training is significant.
And then
it's
even
not just a dollar thing you put on it. The pace and
the timing of it, right? You can't. It was great that we were able to have that CIT training local last week, right? It's something we've been, wanting to send people to. We sent 14 through a couple of years ago, but and it was a great opportunity. So we sent 9 people, but that's a huge draw on a 70 officer department, plus people that are already in training, and then it just so happened at the same time that CIT training was going on, this firearms instructor school became available, and they are few and far between. Within our entire training zone of like 4 or 5 counties, there may be one every 2 years. So when they come up, you really have to jump on them, and no control on our behalf to say that CIT happened the same week as firearms instructor. Now we pulled 10 people off of the schedule, for 1 week for absolutely necessary and valuable training, but that's the part that is a challenge. And if we say, well, we can't do it right now, well, then now a year or 2 years pass before those things become available again. And
and FTO, right? I mean, that's huge. Just to find FTOs, like he's currently juggling how to put people where on that shift. Is we do a rotational field training program where they essentially go for a 3-week rotation on every shift and then go back and then get signed off on by the sergeant if everything goes well. But it's over a 12-week program. We've had to make modifications to it, really to kind of help the schedule more than anything else based upon the performance of the new hires. If they currently are law enforcement or have had law enforcement experience, we're able to accelerate the release program as far as counting on staffing levels. But having FTOs on the shift, right? If they're based on seniority, we're limited there. And, again, we go back to how I kind of blew my top before about people not knowing what they're talking about when they put these comments. People don't know what they're talking about, right? They're like, oh, I don't know why they just can't. Stop. You're embarrassing yourself, right? Call my office if you want the answer. So I got to take a phone call.
even that with the field training officers, right? So to become a field training officer, you need experience on the job, right? You want the right people. Arguably, maybe the most critical component of your agency or of a new officer's training is their field training officer. They start their career, whether they put themselves through the academy or we hire and put them through the academy, but they spend 6 months in the academy and they get all the contextual knowledge, but then you have to go out and apply it. So the basic course or the police academy is designed to prepare the officer to go into field training. The field training program is designed to prepare the officer for solo patrol. Equally as important as the police academy, but you're really, the difference there is it's that one-on-one instruction. So your FTOs are really critical on the outcome of the officers, and it's a lot on them as well, right? Because they're think about the calls that a person's handling. You're there as an officer. It's enough on your plate to handle the call, but now you're also training somebody else, and you're also making sure that that person doesn't put themselves in harm's way or somebody else in harm's way or make a legal or some other type of a policy mistake or whatever else. So it becomes a lot of work on the FTOs, and everybody that signs up to be one, they have like an intrinsic desire to make the officers better, to train, to teach, to if you have the opportunity to train the guy that you're going to sit next to, you're going to do the best you can because that impacts your own workload. But with that comes a certain burden on them almost. So when we have these mass hirings and this nonstop, cycle of training people. They come out of the academy, they go into field training. And right now, like I said, we have 2 that are going right into field training. We'll have a couple more coming out of the academy to go into field training. We just had 2 come off of field training. Those FTOs, and there's only a handful of them, are not, they're every day
They're in a
training.
permanent cycle of
They're starting to
training,
burn
yeah.
out a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Like, can I just have a day by myself?
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to do this, but, so we run into that. And then to make sure that you have enough of them on the shifts. The other issue that comes, which is a good and bad problem to have, historically, the people that want to become FTOs are the same people that want to get promoted, that want to go to the detective division, that want to be on a specialized unit. They're all driven the same way. So, we're going to go through these promotions this week, and we're going to make, a couple promotions probably out of the patrol force to the rank of sergeant or detective or whatever. I think just about everybody that came and sat down for interviews, the whole top of that sergeant's list are all current FTOs. So when they get promoted to sergeant, we won't be able to use them as
Backfill the FTO.
and now our FTOs are short again. So that wheel is equally as much of a challenge as just hiring and keeping people in the basic course.
Basically, what it comes down to, it's a challenge that never stops.
It never stops.
And,
you get lulls, but
I can imagine, we all say, no matter what industry you're in, education, training, time and money, time and money. And with a police agency, it's so much more amplified. I know that. I've had conversations with Chief Sinagra with this, where officers, you take the time to train them, you spend the money to train them, and then just a little short drive down across the bridge, across the Tappan Zee, you go into Westchester, and the rates of pay. And, you can't blame somebody for bettering themselves, but I know we've had that right within our police force. And
times.
again, in speaking with Chief Sinagra, I know it's happened, several times. And by the way, even Chief Sinagra has not been afforded an hour and a half. Like,
Oh, is that what happened? Is that what you were talking about before? That he doesn't get an hour and a half?
That's what,
Again, I'm honored. I thank you. Thank you for
not
that.
not as a guest. That's what I
Really,
say. This is one for the record books today.
Wow, this is great. But not a normal occurrence. I mean, you chose me to fill that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for. Love you, Joe.
He'll be here at 6:30 is next time on. And
I'll be waiting for
holding
it.
a microphone.
Oh, I know
yeah.
he's preparing.
He's ready.
I would just love it if he was listening.
And I got to tell you,
some days he does, some days he doesn't.
I hear them talk on the radio. I watch the shows that go on. It really is good to see, one, the camaraderie at the executive and administrative command staff level that occurs between Saugerties. All of us, really, right? We go to Chiefs Association, we have get-together. Absolutely phenomenal. We bust each other's chops. And it's all in good fun, because at the end of the day, when the bell rings, we're there for each other.
Yeah, same
It
mandate.
absolutely is, right? And again, right, knowing that Joe and I essentially came up through police work together, right? He was at Ulster at the time, and I've seen his career, he's seen mine, and we've worked together and shared resources, and it's just always been good. We all benefit from that, and I say we, as a community, as a really Ulster County benefits from all that. So it's good to see that. And but the challenges that you talk about, Greg, really for us, people sometimes lose sight that it's a 24-hour-a-day, 365 operation, and all 71 are carrying guns, right? We have, like John Wallace used to say, I don't know how you sleep at night. Like, how do you sleep at night? No one does. But we value, and I can say Mike and I have both come up through valuing the necessity for training, right? We don't rely on just what they get at the academy, right? We are very fortunate that we have the resources available to us, and it is a challenge. It's a juggling act sometimes to move those resources around, but we put a lot into our training programs, whether it's in service, whether it's outside academy training, and again, a big shout out to Chief Sinagra and his staff, right? They have stepped up to cover a lot of the voids with the field training, the CIT. Really, and for a long time we had the capability to do that. We still do we're still partners in the academy program here, and we've had to kind of pull off the accelerator a little bit on training. We hope to get more involved in some of that stuff at some point, but our focus now, because of how city and municipal policing has changed, we've got to focus back on that. So it's difficult.
We've been kind of hitting at this, but not actually saying it out loud. For communities that host police departments, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, budgetary thing that we oversee. In addition to that, the liability exposure is absolutely the most, So we, and we take a lot of pride in the fact that we're accredited, as do you. But that's not just something you put on your shirt. That means you're...
And it's not a one and done.
No.
It's not a sticker on a window, right? You got to, every year.
You're married to that.
You know, we're both assessors. We've been through program.
What is it, every 5 years, every 3 years,
Every 5 years they show up, right?
5 years for reaccreditation, yes, sir.
The flip side is in between. If there's a big case, someone's going to come in and say, hey, this bad thing happened, and now there people who are representing that party are going to come and they're going to be critical and they're going to say, hey, these are your standards. You didn't follow them here, you didn't follow them there. And to the degree that they may be able to prove that, that person may get away with doing something very wrong. Or the city or the town, in this case, would be extraordinarily liable for something that shouldn't have happened. So you need buy-in from the guy that's being field trained all the way to the top. And it's a hard thing to do. And
so when the mayor does his yearly budget presentation and talks about community involvement and budgetary preparation and involvement at that level, right? What people do, right? We go to these budget meetings, we sit around and talk to people about it, and they show the pie chart, and it shows KPD, right? A big chunk of it. The largest chunk is law enforcement and police services. And again, when people go, I don't know, why is it? I say, are you're kidding, right? Let me take the time to explain to you what we have going on, because it's not just cops driving around in cars, right? There's investigations, there's training aspects, there's equipment, there's the liability associated with police work today, making sure that officers respect constitutional rights, first and foremost. Two, that they're trained to determine what level of force has to be made on split-second decisions, not based fully on every piece of information that gets divulged at the end of the investigation. These officers walk into a darkened room environment knowing that it's a barking dog, right? We had the state police just handle something where it was really initial call came in as a mental health, right?
Yeah, mental health, yeah.
And turned out that the guy fired on a trooper and hit her, right? So that's the stuff that we have to prepare for. We talked about warrior versus guardian mindset, and we're trying to find that balance. So when people say, I don't know why you need all that money, stop, right? Please, have a discussion. I'll buy you the cup of coffee. Yeah. We'll talk.
The other context, we schedule basically 5 officers to be out every day, but practically people have training, they have time off, so the likelihood is there's 3, maybe 4 if we're lucky. If you get a car accident domestic, we're calling for help.
Yeah.
And you guys are not much better off. Yeah. And that happens all the time. We're 64 square miles. So we might have a car in West Sorgety's handling something, and something shows up down by me in Glasgow. You still might be calling for help.
You talked about even the liability piece of it. Just that, aside from the use of force decisions, aside from all of those other issues, just the fact that we have 5 officers 24 hours a day driving.
Yeah.
Driving around the streets nonstop, right? The more you drive, the more likely it is something's
the probability of having something go wrong goes up.
The guy that's going to that call in West Saugerties was on the other side of Saugerties when the call came in.
Yeah.
So now we're expecting him to drive at a high rate of speed all the way across town to get there. Yeah. Your citizens want to see him; they don't want to wait, right? So, the liability piece just alone of the thinking about that, having 5 emergency response vehicles out there 24 hours a day.
Just the way traffic has gotten all over. But I know, just going from the complex to Glasgow, oh my God.
15, 20 minutes.
It's crazy. Yeah. And you hit a couple of traffic lights and...
Stop signs. Stop sign. I don't know what to say, right? Vehicle maintenance, right? We get these vehicles at 70,000 miles. We have to hand them all. We have to have plans in place to get them out of the fleet, because at that point the cost for maintenance is astronomical. It's exponential to maintain a vehicle. I'd say 70. Depends on what we try to assign them by shift sometimes, but 80,000, absolutely. They got to go. They cannot be used for primary response, emergency response purposes. Just can't do it. It's not fair to the public to have those vehicles. They don't start. The brakes are problems, but just think about that, right? You respond to a call, say in Saugerties, that officer may drive 25 miles to that call. It's not unrealistic, right?
No, it's not.
It's possible that. So, when I hear, like, my son will say, oh, they put 40 miles on the patrol car yesterday. I'm like, 40 miles in a 6 square mile city? What are you doing? Like, are you just driving around? Did you leave the city? Did you go up 28? What are you doing, right? But
I can see it, right? When you look at their call volume and they're just bouncing around, patrolling and stopping, and that's not, looking back, it makes sense.
The other thing about the cars, too, like you say, about taking them out 70, 80,000 miles, it's people would hear that probably on the radio and go, 70 or 80,000 on my personal car is really not a big deal, right? The car's
not on a
probably still in
personal
great
jet,
shape,
you know.
but what you really have to look at is the hours that the motor's running, right? These cars are, 70,000 miles on one of these is like having 210,000 miles.
You can't shut them down anymore because you basically got an office with computerized equipment that you have to maintain climate control.
Yeah, and the fact that it's not a, we have, as part of our contract, there are a couple of department members that have take-home cars. He gets in his car. The only one that drives his car is him. Only one that drives my car is me, right? But a patrol car, you've got 3 different drivers over the course of 24 hours. And
Seats
ideally,
getting moved 3 times a day.
I'd like to keep one car for every 4 as a backup. So in case there's service or something breaks down, or we're not there, right? We have new cars coming in as part of the purchasing. And so again, a challenge to try to get them up. But when one car gets out of the fleet for maintenance or repairs or whatever it may be, it shows, right? It hurts. It puts a cramp on our patrol division. So it's a struggle. But yeah, now you got 3 different people. The seats are moving back and forth. There's an adjustment here and there. I don't want that. My cup holder. They're driving around. It's their office for those 8 hours. Now you got a cup holder. You got a bottle. It's a challenge. Yeah, it's a challenge.
They take a beating for sure. You're a
true.
prisoner in the back kicking it.
Yeah.
And doing other stuff, right?
Yeah, the urinate.
That's why we have plastic seats, and you
I
can just
know.
wash them out, right?
Gentlemen, we are just about out of time. Chief Jid Tinti.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for that hour and a half. I just really, it's
it's
unheard of.
You are more than welcome. One for the record books here today, listeners. Jid Tinti, City of Kingston Police Chief, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Likewise, Deputy Chief Mike Bonse. Thank you, Fred Costello. Thank you, Lawrence. And most importantly, thank you, listeners. We'll be right back here next Wednesday.